It is. All right, everyone. Welcome to Life After BME. We've got a very
Hello.
fun and interesting night for tonight. So my name's Tim. I'm the grad liaison for BMES right now. Also a intern at CFD Materials. So I'll be joining in with the guests as well, helping answer some questions. Joining me as co-hosts are Michael Lee, who is the event coordinator for BMES, and Mickey Yu, who is the president of the BMES chapter here. And joining us as guests is the wonderful Preksha, who is a mechanical engineering tech at BND. We got Eugene, who's a grad student at Georgia Tech. Vaibhav is also a grad student at Carnegie Mellon. All of them are studying mech. And Anu, who is a product engineer at Dipoy Synthesis. Did I pronounce it right?
Exactly.
Okay. So if you're joining us, anyone in the audience, we're gonna have a live Q&A, so just hold off on your questions till the end. You can always drop your questions in the chat if you don't want to forget. We'll address it later towards the end. I see we got some people here coming in. Oh, okay. Got some here coming in. And just to go over what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about our postgraduate experiences. We're going to have some fun bits in between, but we'll also talk about career advice and also just look back on how our undergrad was like. So, everyone ready to get started? All right.
I'm ready.
So, postgrad experience. So some of us here are in industry, namely Anu and Preksha, and some of us here are in grad school, Vaibhav and Eugene, and I'm sort of in between. So I want to know first from Vaibhav and Eugene, how is grad school different from undergrad, especially mech grad school compared to BME undergrad?
Oh, I guess
yeah, I mean, I know.
So mech grad school, at least at Carnegie Mellon, is like very focused on. I guess it depends on the classes you take, but a lot of the classes I'm taking are very industry based. So I'm in this 3-semester program called Advanced Study, where it's industry orientated, and it's a project based academic year. So in the fall semester, you usually take fundamentals class, and then you build up some skills, and then like in spring semester, and then the next fall you take project classes. So I think from undergrad, you just like really laying the foundation towards these classes, and then you build up from there.
How about you, Eugene? What's grad school like? How's it different?
I agree with Vaibhav on pretty much everything he said. My grad school works a bit different, but I think a lot of the skills I learned from undergrad transferred over well to grad school, but as of preparing me to study independently and work on these larger projects, because in grad school you sort of enter a more specialized area of what you really want to focus on, and so you use that time to really hone in your skills and specialize in one particular area.
Is the work-life balance different with grad school? Is it the same as undergrad?
Yeah, I think Vaibhav will agree with me. It's not really. So we might take less classes per semester, but a lot of graduate students are already working part-time, full-time, or doing research. And so you might have less time that you spent on classes, or at least going to class, but you still make up for it by doing other work. So it's sort of different, but it's definitely not less busy, at least not for me.
Yeah, it's definitely not less busy. It's not like a party freshman year type of thing. It's just a lot of work. So I think it just depends on what track you take. If you take a thesis track, like Eugene said, you might take 1 or 2 classes a semester, and then you'll be spending like 30 hours a week in your lab doing research and stuff like that. For someone like me who is like course-based, I take more classes, so I take like 3 or 4 classes, but then a large part of it is like a project, so you're spending a lot of time outside classes working on projects and things like that. And of course, you can like electively do some research. So like this semester, I did like 4, I think it's 4 credits worth of research. We go by units, though. I think that's what it translates to.
Okay. So outside of the program, wait, hold on, my cat's going. Outside of the program itself, because you're just mostly describing the program, but how's the school itself different? How is Carnegie Mellon different from Stony Brook, or Georgia Tech different from Stony Brook? I want to hear what's the pros, what's the cons, and all that stuff.
I say like pros are that like Carnegie Mellon is like a huge engineering school. So, or yeah, a lot of the people that you meet are also working on like really cool projects. So, and like Stony Brook, it's like research based and like, you know, professors usually do their own like research and stuff like that. But here at like Carnegie Mellon, a lot of like the research and like projects are industry orientated also. So like I can give you an example, like one of my friends for his research, he sometimes works with Ford, developing control systems or things like that. There's a class called like space robotics where they're building a Mars rover that NASA will send to Mars in like a couple of years. So I think there's like a lot of that. Like Uber partners with some of the labs and they do AI research and self-driving research. And I think that's like a big difference. And just like talking to people here versus like in Stony Brook, everybody here is like, I'm not saying that everybody at Stony Brook isn't very intelligent or like they're working on cool stuff, but there's a lot of people here who are doing cool things, and a big part of like grad school is just talking to other people, seeing what they're doing, seeing what interests like you, and trying to get involved.
And I can actually attest to your point because one of our collaborators where I work is a professor at Carnegie Mellon. So
yeah,
the industry focus is definitely something I've seen.
Yeah.
How about you, Eugene? I've seen pictures of a spiral slide at Georgia Tech. Is that one of the pros?
Oh man, that's just the big ass pool we have at the rec center. Yeah, one of the pros is it's a really large school. Well, it might be a negative also, but I definitely noticed that there is a lot of school spirit going on. Not really related to academics, but everybody's just so excited to be there. Really big into sports. But as an engineering school, it's got one of the biggest departments for mechanical engineering in the country. And so like Vaibhav said, if you're looking out to be joining like these really cool projects, there's a lot of that going on. One of the drawbacks to such a big school, I guess, is that it could be cutthroat, because also, everybody's so smart there, but there's so many kids that you might feel pressured to be performing well. And that's where like these things come in, like what's the term for where you might not really fit in, imposter syndrome. And so you might be having getting pressure to like perform as well as everybody else. But I mean, overall, it's been a very positive experience so far. I don't want to say it's like better than Stony Brook because undergrad was so much fun also, but graduate school, a different experience, in a different location has its positives too.
All right.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
So we're gonna actually shift over to a new fiction now. With regards to industry. So my question here is, how is industry culture compared to college culture, university culture? And also, how is it compared to research culture? Maybe it's 2 questions, but we'll answer the first one first. So how is it compared to what's college life? How's it different to the 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, 8 to 8, whatever you work?
Drake, you want to go first or should I start? Okay, I'll go. It's definitely different in terms of corporate culture. I think you work mostly with old people. You don't work, you're not around students anymore. So that's one thing. And you are in the project 9 to 5 and you are constantly focused on it. So it evolves in a much faster pace. That's one thing that I noticed in industry. So one thing, I think you do like 50% to 60% of engineering and 40% is mostly managerial skills. You have a tracker and you keep targeted deadlines. There's always hard stops for what you're doing, whether you have an outcome or not. They constantly check you. And you have to provide results within the deadlines. So that is something which was different from undergrad, like in terms of deadlines, I'd say. And other than that, projects, you are basically given one project and you see different perspectives of that one project. You don't skip between things. Like after 5 months in the company, I think I'm given a second project right now. I'm like jumping into supply chain a little bit, but most of what I did earlier on was design engineer, so product engineer. So I did most of CAD and mostly CAD, doing design revisions and constantly revising what I did, and then having conversation with cross-functional teams to validate what I did.
Okay.
So
And you work at a big company, right, Anu?
Yeah, I guess.
Yes, you do. What do you mean, I guess? But yeah, that's a great answer. I think it is very different. I have a little bit of a taste of industry, but
It's very
not a
different
large
from,
company though.
it's very different from what I did at Biomedical. So when I started off at Biomedical, I think as an engineer, I think I spoke only to Dr. Hong, whereas now I am speaking to multiple teams. I have to speak to marketing team. I have to speak to CAD engineers. I also have to speak to FEA. So there's a set of people for everything. I have to also talk to lab, schedule them, and also I do the test development. So there's multiple team coming in play, but it happens in a processed
Okay.
way.
How would you break?
Uh,
How's industry life?
I would agree with Anil that you're working with different teams, say marketing, then R&D, because I work in the verification and validation department, which is towards the end of product development. So you get to talk to a lot of people. But how Anu said that you have, I would agree with that. But I don't know. In BD, it's like you're working on different things at one time. So say right now I'm working on this test development, and then also designing this fixture, and then also doing testing, because soon we have like an audit and then you have to produce results to meet the FDA requirements. So right now I'm working on a lot of things, and yeah, you get to learn a lot, just like in college, I would say, because people are pretty nice and pretty helpful. So yeah.
Right, thank you for that. It's really interesting to see how different, grad school is compared to undergrad, and also industry life compared to undergrad. And so we're going to shift over to how you felt about it, Mickey.
I want to ask you guys, like, how did you decide that like grad school or industry was the best fit for you? Like which benefits like pulled you in and made you make that decision?
I can answer for my perspective. So the field that I want to get into was like medical robotics and like prosthetics and things like that. And with just the BME background, that's really not possible. Just because there's so many things that go into robotics. There's all these like control systems, and like you might get like some mechanical design work from your BME degree, but there's a lot of like fundamental like dynamics and controls and electronics, mechatronics that go into robotic systems that you just don't get from BME. And so to expand further into that knowledge, I had to go to grad school.
I'll answer next. I was in a sort of similar boat where I felt that I wasn't exactly prepared to jump straight into the industry. And so I wanted to take some time to pursue grad school and really hone in my skills and what I wanted to do, which is also work on autonomy and robotics.
What about you, Praksha?
I have a pretty different story. I took a gap year to study for my MCATs, and I thought that, okay, I'll probably work as a scribe. But then during that process, I also got an interview call from BD, and it was then that I decided that instead of like working as a scribe, why not get some industry experience and see how it goes from there. So that's how I decided that I want to get into the industry rather than working as a scribe, because why not just make use of the BME degree? So yeah.
And Anu?
So basically, my reason is that I do not know what I want to do in grad school. So I didn't know if I want to do mechanical or electrical. Basically, those were the two courses that I was contemplating. I did not know which one to choose. So I thought maybe if I get into industry, I'll get a perspective of what is required and what I'd be more interested in the industry, and then go back to master's, taking the particular course and then getting back to industry again. Is how I thought about it. And but I was sure that I want to get into medical device, but I just did not know where I want to specialize in, which is why it took a year. But now I think the goal has evolved to that I want to finish this project and then get back to masters.
Do any of you regret your decision?
Yeah.
No, not me. I'm loving, I guess, every single day here. You know, you get to learn a lot, and I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to finish my program rather quickly. That I would have spent less than 12 months in university to work on this master's degree. So I'm going to be back there soon, hopefully.
Nice. Oh, everyone's happy, huh? Good for you guys. It's always good to see. Okay, so Mike, you want to take the next section?
Yeah, of course. So right now I'm a sophomore and I have no clue what I'm going to do in the future. And I'm sure that most of you had the same feelings. So I want to ask all of you, how different do you think you are now from your freshman self? And what would your freshman self think of you now? So does anyone want to tackle that question? Eugene?
Yeah. I think my freshman self would have been pretty proud of me, maybe, or at least where I'm at, because I'm doing things that like the freshman me never really thought were like a thing, you know, or were an option. But I think the freshman me would have wanted to get where I am right now quicker, and by taking some shortcuts, which is not a good thing, but that's what the freshman me wanted to do. So the freshman me might have chosen a possibly different undergrad degree. But I took the longer route, you know, like the more scenic route of studying biomedical engineering. And now I'm sort of tackling things that are more similar to mechanical and electrical engineering. But it's definitely benefited me in a lot of ways that, you know, you don't necessarily realize every single day. But it's been overall a very rewarding experience, both undergrad and grad school.
That was a great response. Does anyone else want to add to that? Praksha, for instance?
And also for me would be very surprised at what I'm doing right now, because I never thought I would end up doing industry, because I always had this plan that, okay, and then that. So yeah, they both would be pretty surprised at what I'm doing right now, doing stuff and program development and all of that. But if I had a chance to go back to freshman year, I would probably have preferred mechanical engineering degree, taking a mechanical engineering degree and getting more industry experience in undergrads. But yeah.
So it seems like mechanical engineering was the way to go. Did the both of you ever sort of regret choosing BME in that instance instead of mechanical engineering?
Yes. Pretty bluntly, yes. Like the skills that you acquire as like a mechanical engineer in undergrad, you know, like BME is like not just at like Stony Brook, but BME in general is like you learn like a lot of different things. You know, you become like a jack of all trades, master of none type of thing. But when you go to like mechanical engineering, you delve in stronger into like the subjects and like I just like the core basics of everything in like BME are mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. And so those are like the fundamentals. And then if you want to get into BME, it's just an application of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. And yeah, so.
And do you have any comments on your freshman experience or like how your freshman self would have viewed your current self today?
I think from freshman year, I wanted to get into medical device industry, so that I did not deviate much from what I thought I'd do. Maybe I was deciding between pharmaceutical or medical device industry. Like those were the two separate things or two tracks that I had, which I wanted to choose between. But I knew that biomedical engineering was application based. 1 minute. Was application based, and I chose that because I thought that it is more diverse, it's versatile, it has everything. But I think during the course, what I realized was that even if you are taking all of the application based course, make sure to learn the skills that you take during the course. Like say if you're doing 420, make sure you know Abacus well, and then if you are doing CAD, make sure you do that properly. So those are the skill sets that you could bring to the table when you get into industry. At least you could tell them like, these are things that I could offer for a project. So that's how I see it.
Thank you for your response.
All right. We'll go more over what skills should we be focusing on or just learning in general for industry and for grad school. I want to ask quickly next is I want to know perhaps what's next in life. Is it PhD? Is it med school? Do you plan to move up in the corporate ladder, or do you even looking for a career change? Any comments?
Well, I for one, I'm definitely not getting a PhD. Sorry, Eugene. Go for it.
Yeah.
We all in that boat. I'm in that boat.
I'm ready to jump into the industry any time now. That was always kind of like my end goal from the beginning, and I put that on pause after finishing undergrad to I guess hone in my skills like I've mentioned before. But now that I feel like I've studied what I wanted to study, I'm looking forward to jumping into the industry and then continuing my career from there.
How about you, Prake? What's next? Or you don't know?
Working in the industry, finishing my project, and then masters. Yeah.
I think on my side, I think I haven't decided for long term, but right now, as Greg mentioned, I'd probably focus on completing this project and then masters, but definitely not PhD. And medicine was never a choice, so.
No one's interested in climbing the corporate ladder. No one wants to be a manager, a VP, CEO.
Industry answers that, right?
Yeah, one day, I think being a project manager would be cool. You can't really like start off as a project manager,
right?
Unless maybe like you've got an MBA and like a bunch of other degrees and connections. So that's definitely like something to consider to one way. But I think it also has its own drawbacks of when you're the project manager, you kind of like take charge from the managerial perspective, but you might not be on top of like what's really going on from the technical side. Doing like a little, not doing as much of the grunt work.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to actually be challenged in a way where you know, you have to like find innovative solutions to whatever you're working on.
Does anyone have a great idea that they want to try to become like an entrepreneur and make their own startup?
If I had a great idea, I wouldn't be telling you, Mickey.
Right.
Everyone sign an NDA right now.
Not without my lawyer.
All right. Okay, I think that concludes the first topic, post-grad experience. So thank you for that. If anyone has questions, just leave it for the Q&A at the end or put it in the chat. We'll make sure to address it later. So next, we got a fun bit here, and I'm excited for this. I'm just going to ask you guys a bunch of questions about each other, sort of concerning the future. That's sort of where I was going, and we'll see what answers. And also in the audience, you guys can type in the chat what you think the answer is as well, so we can see what you guys think. So the first question is, who is going to be the first within the four of you to be rich? I'm talking like 6 figures, 7 figures. Who will be first to reach that milestone?
Wow.
I'll start. I think it's going to be Vi. But, look in the chat. I see Vibe off.
Maybe, yes.
I think me too.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I hope everybody gets 6 or 7 figures.
Word. There. I like that.
I'm already 6 figures in debt, so I'm like on the other side.
Same.
Just take the absolute value of your worth. There you go.
Yeah, just saying, Carnegie Mellon's great, but it's $25K a semester.
All right. Okay, so the next question is, who's going to be the first to get married?
Anu. Anu.
Anu?
Yeah.
How do you respond to that, Anu?
Funny, I said. We'll see.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I don't know. It's true.
Anu, if you remember, you led us, you know, the rest of the senior design from last year to arrange your marriage. You guys remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
We're definitely invited, though, for sure.
We'll see.
Wow, marriage coming soon.
Yes.
Going off of that, the next question is, who's going to be the first to have a kid?
Anu.
Anu
too?
Chill, calm down.
And as a follow-up to that, let's assume we all have a kid, right? What's going to be our kids' first words? So I'll start. I think Eugene's kid's going to say like, yo, chill, or something like that as his first word. Your patient's probably like, get lost. And, Anu's probably acha. I don't know what Vice is yet.
I know it, but I can't say it.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Wow, education, F equals MA.
Vibeb's into robotics, so in a lot of like software development, so his kid's gonna just say, hello world.
It's gonna start speaking in ones and zeros. I shouldn't say that. I guess it's a person.
Just like Elon's kid?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so next question. Actually, before this question, I might have missed this in the introduction, but the reason I know these 4 people is because I've met some earlier than others, but we all met each other as a group in our senior design. We were a senior design team, and so we had a lot of fun. We actually did a lot of bonding. And before I asked this question, and this might bias the answers, but
Oh my God.
we made these because it's almost been a year since graduation. We made ourselves these clown certificates. And if you guys read, but that's Anu's. Anu was our leader, and so she deserved
the leader.
Yeah. I still have it.
I have mine too.
You can have it safely with you.
I don't know where mine is.
It's okay.
Oh, Tim, you know what I found? I was packing my suitcase from Pittsburgh this morning, and I saw the eye patch from our senior design video.
Oh no.
I was like, why is this in my suitcase?
To provide
God.
context to that, we had to make a senior design video as a final assignment where you talk about your device, and we opted to basically not talk about our device and create like a superhero trailer where Vibe was Nick Fury. But the next question here is, who was the biggest clown and who is now the biggest clown?
Okay.
I'm not saying me.
I'm not gonna answer this question.
You know, in terms of like clowning around as if like making jokes all the time, it was probably me, like followed by Vibe and then Tim. But in terms of like the genuine, you know, like clown, like the lovable clown we know, it's Anu. Love you.
I think that's the general consensus. But I'd see some Timmy Tan in the chat though, so I can agree with that.
I feel like we've all had a fair share of our moments. You know, we have a lot of funny pictures and videos of each other.
A lot.
So the next question is following up on that. So Freak and Anu, I think you guys took most of the roasting, the friendly roasting that went on during our meetings, our very productive meetings. So I want to ask, how has life been without being roasted daily by us? Do you get roasted actually by your coworkers, or do you roast them? Do you take it out on them now, or is everything super professional?
Actually, none of my coworkers roast me, and I'm really scared when Vi gets into this place or when Vi joins this place, because I don't think anybody knows me the way I was in college. They consider me pretty legit. I think.
Well, you lucked out. I might not be there. I think I'm going to be joining spine robotics now.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Anu, are you happy or? Okay.
It's peaceful.
I think that means we all have to work for the voice synthesis now.
Yeah. Maybe I'll come visit you, I know, and let everybody know you're a clown.
I mean, I definitely miss all the quirks and remarks that come with that. You know, when you graduate and you're on your own, I guess, you know, moving out somewhere else, it takes time to like really build that bond again, you know, with others.
Okay, I think that concludes our first fun bit. We have another one soon. But next, we're going to start, and sort of to segue into the next topic, is undergraduate reflections. So, Mickey, you want to start us off with this?
Like throughout your 4 years of BME, like was it actually how you thought it will be, like the courses and the department, the university itself?
I can answer that first, actually. I think to a certain extent it was a yes and no. BME wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. The first BME course I took was actually back when I was an undecided major, and it was a BME 200 with Dr. Frame. And I think the title of the course is Bioengineering in Extreme Environments. And so every week, Dr. Frame would sort of like give us a lecture of how bioengineers sort of create these livable, hospitable environments in outer space, you know, with rockets and spaceships, or deep under the ground, you know, underwater with submarines. And I sort of like fell in love with the idea of working on those kinds of things. And I switched my major to BME, partly because of that one course. And then the more classes I took, I kind of realized that wasn't really the case. And a lot of the emphasis we have in Stony Brook is actually things like genetic engineering and more from the biological perspective side. And so it's a little different, where I sort of was more interested in the mechanical design of things, as well as the electrical engineering behind it, and software development. But it still gave me a solid understanding, of what undergraduate level education should be, as well as it kind of like was able to point me in the right direction of where I should be looking at if I want to pursue these kinds of things.
What about you, Vi?
I think the courses that are relevant to me now, I'd say I don't use much of the things that I learned in undergrad. Well, I guess they're like fundamental skills of like critical thinking and some math skills that I use now, but I think a lot of it I did not learn in undergrad of what I'm doing now. So there's like a lot of catch up. I think when I was BME, I thought I would like get in depth on like how you actually design like medical devices, how you like would set up like the circuits and do the whole mechanical design process on building it, which you get during senior design, but in other courses are not really there. And there's like a lot of like laps in between, like right now I do like a lot of like robotics and control systems work, right? So this past semester I was working on this monkey robot that brachiates on monkey bars. And in that project, there's like a lot of lapses from my undergrad that I didn't have that some of my teammates had. And so I don't think that the BME did what it was supposed to do, but I guess I didn't really know what I wanted to do back then. But I will say BME did though, like make me want to go into like medical robotics, and did make me want to go into bionic prosthetics. So it was a stepping stone to there.
So for me, I think I did not sort of have much expectation of when I joined, at least when I started BME. But during the courses, I realized that I liked medical device industry more. But most of the subjects that I use right now is probably I use CAD a lot, and then designing, and then basic physics. So biomechanics and 420 comes in that. And so 260, something that I use. These are the courses that I majorly use in my job, but also I think in the job you learn majority of the stuff that's required, but it helps you get to that place.
Yeah, I agree with Anu. When I entered as a freshman, I didn't have much expectations from BME, and even now I think the only courses from my undergrad that I would say kind of help me right now would be just Mech 203, that's CAD, because since I'm into test development, that's like more of a software thing, and that's not something that I did in my undergrads. So when I joined, I had a lot of catching up to do and learning a lot. So for me, the only course would be Mech 203, and yeah, just basic designing and math, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. I think for me, I sort of got lucky because I took the LabVIEW course over the summer, and that's like all I do now. It just so happened to be that LabVIEW was convenient. It wasn't even in the job description, but I think you guys had sort of this general theme of the classes you guys mentioned were ones with specific skills you can readily apply. So I think those are definitely the type of courses you want to be looking out for sure. My next question here is, what do you guys think of senior design? How was the whole process? What could be improved? What did you like about it? Obviously, we met each other. Wow. But what did you think about the process, the projects, the whole thing? Any comments on that? I know you guys have comments on that.
I could start. So I think senior design could have been handled a little differently. You know, that whole like business aspect is cool and like you should really consider it, but I don't think it should be maybe as heavily like what do you say, like sectioned off as it was. And like the project scopes should be defined better, or you should have like better projects that you can do. Because I'll say in like grad school in one semester, like this one like monkey robot that I did, like was like way more work than the whole year of senior design. And I just think the scope of the projects need to change, especially like BME senior design. You know, I think in like mechanical engineering at SBU, they were able to do their own projects and find professors who were able to, they were able to link up with. I think that's a great idea instead of just having these random projects that you can do. I think having free scope and then maybe like some sort of guidance on like what projects you can do in case your team cannot decide on the project, or like going to each professor, seeing what kind of research they do and maybe taking like a spin off. I see like one other thing is like projects here. I know a lot of projects here are like industry based. So like I said before, there's a space robotics project where they're building a Mars rover that will be sent to Mars in a couple years, I think 2023 or something. I'm not really sure, but they're partnered with NASA. And so I think if they're able to get like industry partnerships with the BME senior design, that would be a huge plus.
Mhm. And to actually add to your part, you mentioned the business aspect wasn't really handled too well. And actually, I took a sort of, it was like a overview of biotech business and how that works in this industry. And I thought that class was really helpful because they taught you about how to basically start the business, about what you account for, the market, the regulatory aspects, the IP. And we did have like maybe one lecture on them, but that was it. It was a lecture. There was no guidance.
Yeah.
So I think looking back now, especially having taken some of these courses, some of those, a bit more guidance on that aspect, if they wanted to keep that aspect, should have put. So that's a good point.
Yeah, it might be like better if they just made you require you to take that class instead of putting it senior design. They should just rigorously focus on the project versus like the business and the project, where you're wasting like half the time making these PowerPoints and doing all this research.
I could continue with that. Yeah, I definitely found some of the lectures a little bit redundant, even though, you know, I still appreciate that like the business component was there, just because, you know, I guess the ultimate goal of the project is to sort of give you exposure to all the different aspects of it, you know, business and technical. I definitely agree with Vaibhav that I would have wished we had more freedom to select on what we want to work on, because I think we've had some pretty interesting ideas that we would have liked to pursue, but in at least our year in the BME department, we were limited to a selection of topics that were already chosen by the professors. And like Vaibhav said, some of the different departments in Stony Brook are actually partnered with the industry. And so the senior design teams in those departments are able to work directly with the companies involved, like NASA and the mechanical engineering department, on, you know, projects that are very relevant to the industry today. And so they may potentially get more out of it. The good news that I actually talked to Dr. Chan earlier this year, and I was able to connect her with my supervisor from one of my older internships because they actually they wouldn't tell me much about it, but they wanted to hear more from the industry side about how we're preparing our students for graduation, and, you know, maybe connect the industry and senior design together.
That sounds pretty cool, Eugene. I actually was like thinking about that the other day that, you know, at like Stony Brook, a lot of the professors are like focused on research and may not have had industry or like little industry. And you can kind of tell by the courses based that they teach in Stony Brook versus like a place like Carnegie Mellon, where like a lot of professors either have industry or are partnered with industry, and they teach you skills very relevant to industry and like the application and stuff like that. versus at Stony Brook, you might learn these topics and you might learn how to solve some equations and maybe do a little bit of math lab, but not that much. But, and Carnegie Mellon is very rigorous. You get a design question and you start from start to finish, and
Yeah, I agree.
So you guys think that the best way to make of your time would be to just really delve into getting your hands dirty with actually doing the stuff, as opposed to just learning over from a top level. Just look for opportunities to get in the low level. Really doing the whatever the activities have to be related to that topic. Because BME is such a broad thing. I can't just say, but okay. These are great comments, I think.
Like BME 100 versus Mech 100 and Stony Brook. Mech 100, they're building a robot right off the bat. BME 100, you have 50 lecturers, and then you do this design report, which isn't very helpful for anybody. And I'm not sure how it is now. I'm speaking from 4 years ago, so maybe I'm just speaking out of my head. But that's how it was for us. And I think, if you can make some sort of small medical device, it doesn't have to be that. Okay, it's the same. You can make some sort of small, simple medical device. It doesn't have to be that crazy, but at least you'll get your hands dirty with electronics, embedded prototyping, or Arduino, which is fairly high level. It still gives a big. It goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest takeaway you think from senior design that improved you? I think for me, it wasn't so much the technical stuff. I think it helped me become better at management of a team. Did you guys take anything away from senior design or from undergrad in general? I think Val, you mentioned before, critical thinking skills and that stuff. What are the big takeaways that you think you got from undergrad, if not technical skills or specific skills like that?
I think for me, like you mentioned, working with teams. I think in industry, you are given a team and you're stuck with the team for the entire project. So you learn to manage with the team. Over the course of time, you understand how the dynamic is. So I think working with the team is quite important. And like I mentioned earlier, trying to solve problems. So, and in industry, I think it's really, because it's constantly evolving and it's constantly changing and it's fast paced. So I think you can continuously discuss with a team, and that's how your decisions are made and that's how you solve the problem. So it's not just your decision. So you constantly communicate with your team. And that is the biggest takeaway, I think, as an undergrad from the undergrad.
I think that was my biggest takeaway also, just being able to work in a team, at least from my perspective in our group. Most of the time we would talk with Dr. Judix, who was our advisor, and we'd be given a task that we would want us to complete. We wouldn't be given much guidance, but we have a time frame and we have our resources, like a budget. And so as a team, we'd have to kind of work together to, allocate the appropriate resources from our own time and the money that we're spending on the prototype in order to, meet their demands, I guess, and move forward with that. So a lot of it would, really relied heavily on us working together with each other, making sure, we all get along, and, having a strong leader like Hanu really helped.
Word. Okay, so I think to finish off this bit, Mike, you want to ask the last question?
Yeah, of course. So my question for all of you guys is, did you happen to have any favorite classes during your time at Stony Brook? Now, it doesn't have to be BME related, but I'm looking forward to hearing your responses.
Favorite class? Yeah, I worked a lot. So this is BME related. I worked a lot with Dr. Chin. So he teaches BME 303 and BME 420. So probably my favorite class was one of those two classes. You know, it's biomechanics heavy, and it wasn't just the material, you know, that was like interesting to me and like I found it relevant, but also his way of teaching was pretty fun. You know, you had like some cool projects that you would work on. And I guess he's like my favorite faculty in the university too, since I worked on research with him. And just, yeah, I like him. It's my thing.
How long did you do research under him?
Just my senior year. It was 1 year after taking BME 420. I don't know if you've taken that class. It's quantitative biomechanics. It's like an elective, but I would really suggest it if you're interested in like the biomechanics track. You work on like some finite element analysis and like computational modeling. So it was pretty cool.
That's great. Does anyone else have a favorite class or perhaps an experience that they had during their time at Stony Brook? Anu?
I am thinking not 499, but no, not 513. I died. I think favorite class. I like the content of circuit analysis with Dr. Abak. I struggled through the class, but I like the content. I enjoyed doing the course. But favorite faculty, I think Dr. Bruises and Dr. Judex. Dr. Bruises, because he helped me with industry connections and he helped me or sort of helped me navigate as to how to reach out to the industry. And yeah, 420 was also one of my favorites. But yeah, Dr. Judex also helped me gain connections outside of university. So in terms of industry, they both helped me. So I think they'd be my favorite faculty. But in terms of content-wise, I liked BME 271.
That's a hot take, Anu.
Controversial.
Word. Well, I agree with that one, but whatever.
Yeah, BME 271 is also my favorite.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, could you explain what BME 271 is, Praksha?
Why BME 271 was my favorite?
Yeah, and what course that is.
That was circuit analysis with Dr. Arbab. And that was my favorite because it was probably the first class that actually taught us something about design related, like as in terms of electrical circuits and everything. Whereas other courses like BME 304 and all of those were more of like, like those mesh analysis and all. Oh my gosh, why? So yeah, that was the first class that actually taught us something related to medical devices, whereas 304 was more of like genetic engineering, and then 100 was like just everything. So yeah, that was my favorite.
Vi, is your favorite class a robotics class we took? And that's CS.
Oh man, yo, I realized after why he was such like a snub. A lot of the RI guys, Robotics Institute guys over here, because are kind of like that. They're just all like super smart and just like look down and like look down at you when we couldn't make a simple like line following robot, and like the kids in like the freshman year here just do like wild shit.
If you guys are interested in taking a robotics class, I'm not sure if I recommend, but it's pretty hands-on. It's CSE 378, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, so it was a pretty good class. It gives you a pretty good overview on like robotics and like all the different like subcomponents that go into it. Actually, Sashir, BME 260 Dynamics is a very useful course if you want to get into robotics. Like next semester, I'm going to take a robot design and analysis course that's like 260 on steroids. So that will be fun.
if you guys want to build robots for your second homework, that this robotics class is definitely the one to take. But okay. Right.
So how about you, Tim? Do you have a favorite faculty in mind or class?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Honestly, I have to agree with Preksha and Anu. 271 was the first class where I felt like I actually enjoyed the material and I was being challenged at the same time and learning something that I wanted to learn. And also, Arbab ended up being my advisor for research, and he actually really helped me, with that. And I think I grew a lot as a scientist or a student under his guidance with his research and things I had to do. So I'd say 271 was probably my favorite class for sure. And I ended up TAing the class. That's how much I like it. So.
All right, cool. So with that being said, I think we can now move on to our second segment, which is, hold on, I need a screen share. All right, you guys can see this, right?
Yes.
We're gonna do a bit of trivia. All right, so most of these questions, it's gonna be BME Stony Brook related or just general pop trivia to see how well versed you guys are.
Oh man, okay.
Oof.
And then we split you into two teams. There's team one with Peksha, Shashir, and Eugene. And then team two is Bai, Anu, and Tim. We invited Shashir to participate with us because we need to even out the teams. But Shashir is the president of AMB.
All right. Where are you, Shashir?
Shashir, are you here?
He's in the chat.
But he's scared. He sees our team. Yo, we got Anu.
Oh, nah. Praksha, are you ready for this? You ready to win, as usual?
Oh, jeez, what's going on? All right, so while Sashir's getting ready, here's how it works. We're gonna ask all of you a question, and you're gonna give us an answer. So we're gonna take turns between team one and team two.
What's good, guys? I'm here.
Okay.
If you're
Hey,
right,
Shashir.
your team will stay winning, and then you will continue on. But
if you're wrong, you're gonna be out of the game. So all of you have 2 lives, and we're gonna alternate between teams like I mentioned before. And if your question didn't get answered correctly, it's gonna go to the other team to try and answer. And it'll keep going back and forth until someone gets it right.
Do you go person by person on
Yeah,
each team?
Person by person.
Okay, what are the topics again?
Yeah.
It's gonna be pop culture and Stony Brook trivia.
Pop culture. Okay.
Can we discuss, or is this like?
Yeah.
Yo, you
We're
better
gonna
turn respond this on. Yo, these guys gonna cheat.
I'm gonna call out an individual person, so don't worry.
I think we should go in order of like the team picture, like, you know, go in order. So
we
you
can
can
do
keep
that.
track. Yeah. And then the last team standing wins. So whoever still has
This is making me nervous. Like, why?
Just gonna tell you why I knew.
Why?
So an incentive to win, we have a penalty now. So starting from fun to this segment, some of our BMES members will take pictures of you and they're going to be filtered. So whoever loses will post the pictures.
Oh, God.
So be on your best behavior and try to win.
Yes.
Yeah, that won't matter for Anu. She's already a clown, so.
Ouch.
She already a meme.
Oh,
Ouch.
All right, let's do
alright.
it. Excited.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm team 2.
So I have different sound effects for each response. So if you're correct, you should be able to hear this. Did you hear it?
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, you hear this. And when I announce the winner, you'll be hearing this. Although technically you already know because it's the last person standing. But we'll just ignore that.
Victory Royale.
All right, so the first question that I'm gonna ask is towards Preksha. Question, we're gonna start off easy. Don't worry, we're gonna start off easy. What is the name of Stony Brook's mascot?
Wait, what?
Come on.
We'll see. Right?
Yes, you are correct. You're still alive.
Yo, good job, Prake. That was a hard one.
Come on.
All right.
The next,
Watch me lose.
the next one we're gonna direct it to Vi. Name one member of Destiny's Child.
Beyonce. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, cool.
All right, cool. Sashir, how many colors are there on a Rubik's Cube?
6.
Oh,
Let's
God.
go.
Yo, your questions are mad easy. What?
You're low balls
Building
here.
up. We're building it up.
Yo, ask me what school I go to.
Anu, who teaches BME 100?
Dr. Chen.
You're correct.
All right, now we're gonna get harder.
Oh no.
Oh, God.
Okay, so Eugene, can you name all 5 members of the Simpsons nuclear family?
I could try.
Go for it.
Just, are you gonna like interrupt me if I'm wrong?
You have to say all 5. Or maybe to start off easy, just name at least 2.
Okay. The Simpsons nuclear family. Well, let's go with Homer, number 1. And Bart Simpson.
All right, cool. We'll take that.
All right.
We'll take that.
You forgot Peter Griffin.
No way.
Tim, can you name the other 3?
I have to name 3.
Oh.
Well, I can try. Who did you?
Peter
He
Griffin,
said
right?
Bart and Homer, right?
Can I help?
He said Bart and Homer.
So there's Marge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the baby and the other's name is. Not gonna lie.
Can I help him, or is that not a thing?
You can't help him.
Yeah. It's one of these teams.
Name one more.
Yeah, just name one more.
Is it Lisa? Right, that's
Right.
one of them. I can't tell you which one.
So what's your final response?
Marge and Lisa.
Correct.
Hey,
All
All
right.
right, cool.
big brain.
All right, we're back to Preksha now. What is the name of the
Preksha.
phenomena where multiple people recall a false memory, such as misremembering the Berenstain Bears and the Bernstein Bears?
Mandela effect.
You're correct.
Hey.
You?
Vi, what is the name of the new Netflix documentary based on Joe Exotic and Big Cat conservation?
Tiger King?
Correct.
Hey, that's my boy.
Dang, these are really easy apparently. Maybe we should give everyone 1 life instead of 2.
Yeah, let's cut them down.
All right, so next question. I believe this goes to Sashir. Big Ed is featured on what TV show?
Oh, I know this one. Is this 90 Day Fiance?
Correct.
Let's go.
Why do you know that?
Nice.
I don't know what that is.
Anu, who is the most subscribed to YouTube channel?
come on.
Don't look it
Oh,
up.
I actually know.
I'm not looking it up, but
Okay.
I don't.
Oh wait, Anu's on our team. Come on, Anu.
But I got no clue. I actually don't know. I think I'm gonna die now. So
You want to take a guess?
no.
Just give up.
All right. I'm sorry, Anu.
That's bad.
All right.
Send her to the
What was
gulag, boys.
Goodbye.
That's
You
supposed to be
serious?
X. That's an X, guys.
Oh no, I'm next.
Vlog.
All right. So that means that Eugene will have to have this question. So
Oh,
who is the
okay.
most subscribed to YouTube channel, Eugene?
So as I remember, like half a year ago, it was like a really close race, tie. I will go with PewDiePie.
Sorry.
No, is it serious?
Yo, you can't be giving out the answer like that.
Oh,
Well, it's T-Series, yeah.
Oh,
oh, come on.
God.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I was actually gonna answer PewDiePie. Actually.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
no.
if
Actually,
you said like
TT.
single YouTuber, then yeah, like PewDiePie. But like, I don't know if you said channel, just in general.
Yes.
If it's channel, then it's
It was most subscribed to YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. So since you accidentally answered the question, Mickey, ask the next one, please.
I mean, Tim was supposed to get that question anyway.
True, he would have known.
I think the next question should go to Preksha.
All right.
What show were the words "I'm the trash man" uttered on?
Yo, Val, you got the steal?
I was like half paying attention. I don't remember the question.
What show were the words "I'm the trash man" uttered on?
Sunny one? Or, wait, what was it? It's Always Sunny? That one? No?
I feel like we have to give it to her.
Yeah, we'll give it to her.
Hey, nice, Preksha.
Clutch.
I'm gonna die.
Okay, bye. Next question for you. Niall Horan and Louis Tomlinson were members of what band?
Fuck.
We got this.
Oh, One Direction?
Correct.
Oh,
Shashir, Stephanie Germanata is more commonly known as who?
Stephanie what? Stephanie Germata?
Germanata?
Germanata. Oh God.
Don't look it up.
Geez, why did I get the hard one? No, I have no idea. I'll be honest. I don't know.
You want to take a guess?
Hannah Montana.
Sorry.
Oh no, Devin Ryan.
Are you gonna pass the question?
Yeah, we're gonna pass the question.
It's
Oh,
him.
God.
Who is Zendaya?
What? No.
No? Oh my.
Wait, what was the question?
Yeah, can you repeat
Tim,
it?
that was a worse guess than mine.
What? Are you kidding me? You said Hannah Montana, bro.
Wait, what was the question again?
Stephanie Germanata is more commonly known as who?
Oh, fuck, fine.
The last name rhymed with Zendaya, so I was okay.
All right. Since both of you didn't get that, we're just gonna ask another question.
nice. All right,
Okay.
Team Preksha and Vibe.
Come on.
All right, so Preksha,
Mhm.
who played in the Super Bowl 45, including which city they're from? Ask a different question. I feel like that one's too rough.
That's so hard. Next one.
That is, give me the cheats.
Okay, fine. I'll give a different one. How many constitutional amendments have there been?
uh,
Hmm.
Five? No,
What's your
25.
final answer?
25.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's 27.
Can Vi answer this question? Oh,
Oh, lit. I didn't
No,
know.
Since we started with team 1, that means that Vi has to also answer a question.
Oh, wow. Good luck.
Okay.
All right, so how many constitutional amendments have there been? Oh, we already asked that, did I?
yeah, next question.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the name of the current pope?
Pope Francis? I don't know.
Hey, he got it right. All right, so that means our winner is
Team 2.
Team 2. Congrats.
Hey.
Sorry, Team 1. You're gonna have your photos filtered in a moment.
Oh, no.
All right.
They're used to
cool.
it. Oh, actually, it's this year we haven't done.
We haven't memed them yet.
No, not yet.
Yikes. I'm ready, boys.
That was fun.
I'm glad you liked it. All right. We should get back into our questions for you guys now. Tim, do you want to take it off?
Sure. So the last topic is just life/career advice. Just some general questions on what we've been doing to, for professional development and maybe how we deal with life, because it's a bit different, especially with there's the whole coronavirus, and two, clearly, like we stated before, undergrad is much different than what we're doing now. So the first question is related to sort of job application, or even within when you have a job, is how do you market yourself? And specifically, how do you have any advice on how you can market yourself, especially when you don't feel like you know everything in say that field you want to hop into?
I can answer from my perspective. So I'm going to be interning at Johnson & Johnson over summer, and one of the requirements or preferred requirements they had is that technical drawings, CAD technical drawings, and tolerance and GD&T. And in Mech 203 you kind of learn about it, but it's been 3 years since I took it and I haven't really used it. But you never want to say you don't know what that is. You should try to give the best answer you should, and you should always let them know that you're trying to improve yourself and that you're open to learning it. So I would say never lie that you might know something, but also just don't say that you don't know. I said I think something along the lines that I said when they asked me, do I know GD&T, and that it was a core thing that they do every single day for their medical devices, was that I said I have a familiar background with it. I know it in theory, but I've never done it. But I understand that it's a big thing, part of the things that they do at J&J, and that I will try to incorporate it into the projects as I move on in my graduate degree. So I think, if you don't know something, you could do something like that.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, to add to that, when speaking to a potential employer or a connection you're trying to make, never let them know that you don't really know something. You want to spend time talking about your strengths, and if the topic ever gets your weaknesses, then you want to sure, acknowledge them, but you always want to say that you're working on them. and maybe mention of ways of how you can improve. But if you're really trying to market yourself, focus more on your strengths, but also improving your weaknesses.
Anything to add, Preek or Anu?
I think like why and what Eugene said, focus on the skills. Like if you could definitely contribute something to the project or what you could bring to the table, definitely highlight on those and build on those. You could probably lead the conversation. Like, would just tell me about yourself. You could lead the conversation. You could direct the interview. So I would say pick your strengths and then market yourself based on that. And whatever you're confident in, try to direct the interview like that. And if you are talking to a hiring manager, talking to a hiring manager might be different from talking to a recruiting person. So I think based on the experiences that I've had when I spoke to recruiters, like with HRs, it usually comes to the point where they look at your GPA and your skills because they don't know much about the project per se, but they look at your numbers and then they look at the skills because that's asked from the hiring manager. But when you're speaking to a hiring manager, go in depth about the projects, go in depth about the skills that you know. And I think knowing your audience or knowing who you're speaking to will definitely help.
Yeah, I would agree with Anu that a conversation, an interview with a recruiting guy is different from that with a hiring manager because recruiters generally look at your GPA and the kind of skills that are mentioned in the job description. So if you have a decent GPA, that's like a filter, and then that lets the recruiter know that, okay, she or he has the potential to learn stuff. And then with the hiring manager, it's more of like, oh, do you have these skills or not? When I had my interview, I remember I didn't have any experience with like Insta or Blue Hill software. Like we did we did use Insta in 212, but then that was just some TAs using it for us. So I said that I did have familiarity with it, but I haven't had as much experience with that. So never say you've never experienced that before or you've never done something before. Just always say that you do have a little background. So that lets the person know that, okay, she or he is familiar and is willing to learn.
Okay, these are good responses. And I think that at this stage in our career, I think all of us here, that no one's expecting someone that might be able to just jump in and do everything. I think even at later stages, there is some sort of training involved because every team works different. Each corporate culture is different. They have their own systems and how they, process things and stuff. So there's always learning to be involved. And I think, especially at our stage, they're just looking for someone who is, like I said, familiar with what they do, but also very eager to learn and quick learner at that. So to add to that, then, what are the valuable skills that you think every BME graduate should have? Meaning, if you say you're a biomedical engineering major, what do you think people expect you to know? Or what do you, it's pretty broad, right? But are there any general skills, both soft and technical, that is sort of very applicable to multiple careers?
I think technical, you should know CAD because I think that's like a very like basic and broad skill that you can apply to different industries, no matter like where you go. I think like number one is programming, like MATLAB. You definitely should know like something at least MATLAB, and then when you go to industry, not a lot of people use MATLAB. So if you have something like Python, that would be great. So 100% know how to program, know how to think through like a code structure. Even if you use MATLAB, if you can just like think logically as like a programmer, that'll go a long way. And that's just like a fundamental skill that you need for anything, any sort of like real engineering.
Yeah, I think a little programming experience can really go a long way, just because of its relevance and widespread usage within not just BME but every industry and pretty much every branch of BME as well. Um, but some of the softer skills I think are just as important. Maybe even basic data analysis. It's something that's constantly used. If you really know which data analysis methods to use for whatever you're measuring, that can mean the difference between having the right results from something that's completely wrong. But as well as every undergrad degree, as well as BME, it teaches you a bunch of the softer skills like time management, and those are just as important too, in a way.
Yeah, data analysis would definitely be a big thing. Knowing a lot of softwares, because that kind of is a general requirement for most of the engineering positions, that they want you to know how to use Minitab and R software. So along with CAD, I would say data analysis softwares as well.
But to build off of both of them really quick, statistics is huge in industry, and I'm only learning of that now because I suck at statistics. But if you are able to do like data analysis and statistics well, you will have a job.
I agree 100%. I think most of the work that I do right now is after finishing testing, I do most of data analysis. You have to understand what your numbers say, and report that to the higher management. So data analysis is a huge hit, and Excel is sort of important a lot. And then it also comes in handy when you do a managerial part of the job. So you have tracker, you have a common SharePoint where you track everything. So like I never put in so much effort to learning Excel until now, but I'm doing that now currently in my job. So like Preksha mentioned, Minitab is something that I use quite a lot, and Excel and CAD. So I think these are the three softwares that I use in my job.
I use Excel all the time. Yeah.
I'd also like to add one more thing. Public speaking and communication are a very important tool that, that's not something you think of when you think of undergrad degree, or especially BME. But, if you want to be a good engineer, whether you're on a research or in the industry side, good communication is what you'll need to succeed, because without it, you're just not gonna. So, things like being able to present your work and show your work in an adequate manner, will really go a long way, as opposed to, if you can't like type out a proper report.
Okay, great.
I think Bruce had something to add on. Did you, Bruce?
I was just supporting the Excel usage and the data analysis from a process engineer standpoint. We are you're not expected to know everything, and there's a lot of training available on the job. But my lord, the complicated Excel sheets that I have to build, especially from, I'm in a big company that's not too fond of everybody getting Python because they're afraid that somebody's going to get a virus and all of our IPs out the window. So that's kind of regulated to a certain sector of engineers. The process engineers aren't getting to work with, it's like pulling teeth to get Python installed and admin access on your computer. But you can do everything with Jump or Excel and start programming in VBA and getting around all that. So I think mostly it's you have to be creative and you have to figure out how to learn to use the tools that you are given.
If you guys want to see what level of Excel you might expect to know, if you guys ever tried the LinkedIn Excel quiz, on LinkedIn they have a bunch of these quizzes where you can get these sort of badges or pseudo certificates on certain skills. So there's one for Word, there's some for PowerPoint, and there's one for Excel. If you guys are everyone, if you're interested to see how what you don't know about Excel, I recommend you take that quiz. So, and use that as a starting point to start learning for sure. It will help you learn some things. These are all great advice, and thank you, Bruce, for that. So the next question I have is the value of networking, to sort of build off Eugene's point of communication. Is there any, do you have any personal examples that you know this has worked? Because everyone says like, oh, everyone, you got a network, you never know if you might find the right person, all that stuff. But when you're just taking classes, and maybe especially earlier on in our undergrad career, when you're not really looking for internships and stuff per se, you don't see the value of that. You don't see the exact result. So do you guys have any specific examples of where networking led you to where you are today, or someone else where you are today? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you go, Eugene.
I'll go first. Okay. Yeah, actually very relevant. I got my first internship through the Career Center at Stony Brook. I kind of like went in there thinking that BME is being underrepresented, as a degree from all the companies that visited the engineering career fair, just because a lot of them were focused on taking in like electrical engineering and mechanical engineering students. But I spoke to the person who was representing the company, and I reached out to them after the career fair, and I, sent them an email thanking them for their time and everything. And I found out, so I got hired by the internship. I got invited for an interview and I got hired. And half a year later, at like a company barbecue, one of the engineers talked to me, and he actually said, "Hey, so like, you were a good candidate, but there were so many other candidates, but like we chose you, and one of the biggest reasons why is because you actually reached out to us after meeting us, and so that like really put your name into the recruiter's memory." So that's like a personal example of me getting a job just because somebody remembered my name. So networking really is important.
Yeah, I guess from like my personal thing, like I said, I think I mentioned before, I'm going to be interning at J&J, and in the fall semester, Johnson & Johnson came to Carnegie Mellon to recruit at our career fair. And so when I spoke to them, I just like spoke to them, and I talked to one guy named, I think his name was Michael, and he was in this research and development program. And he happened to know another person who graduated from Stony Brook, who I know because he was a mentor. If anybody's a freshman or like if anybody remembers, there's like a mentor program when you first enter Stony Brook that you could sign up for, where you're like paired with somebody who's older than you. So when I was a freshman, I got paired. Actually, it was my roommate's mentor, but he was BME, and I stayed connected with him through the whole time. And like just as you have it, like this guy who I talked with at the career fair was friends with this guy, and he referred me for the internship that I'm doing now. So it seems kind of a little convoluted.
That's awesome.
I can cite one for me. When I interviewed at CBD materials, the person that I first met when I got to the building she told me that she was also a Stony Brook student, but not only that, that her husband was a PhD student at Stony Brook in MEC, who happened to be moving to a new university because the professor was moving. And I happened to remember that one of my other friends mentioned that my friend was in MEC. So I said, "Oh, is that this person?" And she said, "Oh, yes." And it turns out we had a mutual. And then from there, instead of it's just me and this engineer taking me through a tour of the facility, it was, that mutual connection already helped to sort of like ease the atmosphere. So we were much more casual because we had mutuals, and as you took me to the place, I think it helped to make a good first impression on my end, which definitely helped with the rest of the interview. So it's even like tiny things like that you never know might help you, but it certainly helps to talk to a lot of people and network. In that sense.
I think for me, all of the internships that I got, I think the first one that I got at Boston Scientific was because I went to a conference. I attended BEA's conference at DC, and that's how I got my first internship. And then the second one was with Biomedical with Dr. Hong. So that I got it through Stony Brook Career Fair. But like I said, like everyone said, when I applied with Dr. Hong, I think he did not have enough positions, but I reached out to him after months later. And we kept in touch during the time. And after, I think 4 months later, when the positions were open, he reached out and then he asked if we could go for an interview. And then I had the interview, and then after that I got the position. So I think keeping in touch and then seeing if the positions are open. And I was in touch with most of our Stony Brook past students. They also gave me some contacts. So using them as a resource to network with other people would also be helpful.
And I think another personal example for me is I helped a friend of mine get a position at, because the engineer I was talking about, she was leaving because her husband was moving. So I helped actually a friend of ours, fellow BME graduate, help get a position at our company as well. I wouldn't say that I'm the reason that he got hired, but the fact that he knew through me that there was an opening was already an advantage in itself, and that he knew a lot more about the position outside of what was just on the job description, because I told him more about what the project was, to how much I can talk about it, because some things are proprietary, of course, but I told him these are just sort of things that we're looking for. Sure, that's what this says on the project description, but we're looking for also for someone that could really do this and that, and he was able to tailor his resume and ultimately his interview to help and be ready to answer those questions. So, it's like things like this that could really give you an edge over other candidates. Yep. So let's move on to the next question. The value of GPA. We sort of touched on this in some of your answers. Does it matter? Did it matter to you? Anyone want to take on this?
I think it does when you don't have much on your plate, like when you're doing undergrad and if you don't have enough experience. The one thing that could boost your resume is the skills that you have and the GPA. And especially if the first round of filter that when you go to a conference is an HR or recruiting person, they basically look at your numbers, because there are tons of applications that they get who has the same number and also maybe better skills, or they already have past experience. So I think it's an added bonus. It becomes a friend when you don't have anything, when you don't have much on your resume.
What would you say is a good GPA for, say, what you do? Let's say you were interviewing someone for your position. What would be like the cutoff?
I'd say maybe 3.2, 3.5, 3.3, something above that.
Okay.
3.5 maybe.
Big range.
See.
Yeah, I think GPA is relatively important up until you finish your undergrad degree. But it's not the most important thing, where I think that your research or your internship experience or a combination actually matter just as much as your GPA in the end. For GPA is very important for grad school, where a lot of the grad schools, PhD programs especially, they will want you to have a relatively high GPA, like 3.7, maybe even 3.8, like if it's like a really good program. But if you just have on the other hand, like a 4.0, but you have no other experience, no teaching assistantships, no research, no internships, then you're kind of like you just look like a nerd, to the employers and, the recruiters. I've actually asked some of them myself. And I asked Dr. Chin, who's a faculty advisor in the BME, he's a professor, but he's also a advisor for some of the potential incoming PhD students in the BME department in Stony Brook. And one of the most important things that he looks at when he evaluates a potential candidate for a PhD is their personal statement, because he says for him, he could really tell, what kind of a person that student is, what they really, want to achieve out of that degree. So GPA is certainly not the most important skill or trait that you could have as a college student. But at the same time, you can't really like undervalue or undermine it, where, having also a bad GPA isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, I fully agree with what Eugene said. Like in undergrad, a lot of people like stress about the GPA, and you definitely want a good GPA. And, I've heard like some professors here at Carnegie Mellon, they say that they'd rather have a person who has like a 3.3 and a ton of like technical experience and able to communicate well versus like a person who has a 4.0, but all he does is just study, because you're not going to do a PhD by just like studying. You're going to do research, or if you go to industry, you're not just going to be studying, you're going to be applying what you learned. So I wouldn't, like what Eugene said, GPA isn't like the be all end all, but you don't want a bad GPA. You definitely want something decent, but you should focus on like the craft itself, like learning in depth, like what it is that you're doing. Like, I don't know, like learning skills like CAD, like really learn it. Just don't like take the class just for the A, learn how to use it, learn how to use like the different programs, or like what the similarities are between the program. You take BME 120, like learn what MATLAB is, how do you use it? How do you apply it to different languages and things like that? Like learn like the basics of each skill that you learn versus like just trying to get that good grade. Like in grad school, a lot of courses are tougher here, but you really just focus on like the skills that you learn in class, and then the grades just like follow. So.
Okay. So like to follow up on Vi's sort of the mentality that Vi put here, where you sort of focus on the skills as opposed to focusing on the grade, and like just letting it follow. So I'd like to ask, what are any personal development like routines or habits that you think as a student you should be exercising now that would make you a better grad student, better industry worker?
I go first. Definitely be open to learning new things. One of the things I have been trying to do over the summers, especially if I don't have a lot of internship work or anything like that, is try to maybe select a personal project that you want to work on. So something that you think would be a challenge for you, but something that you could also achieve in a reasonable amount of time and effort. So something that I want to work on right now is designing a control system for a drone from scratch. And I'm actually working on that with Tim and a few other people. But I think like from everything I've learned, it's something that's achievable, for me at my current state. And just like providing this sort of challenge for you, especially if it's something that you haven't really worked on before, will really motivate you to learn new things, and acquire new skills that may come in very handy in the future, whether you're in, the school or in industry or doing research.
I guess to add to Eugene, I just like want to like reaffirm what Eugene said. Personal projects are definitely like a big thing. You learn a lot from personal projects. Like I know, I guess it's something that I lacked before, but definitely in hindsight, I wish I did like more personal projects. There's some people, like some of my friends here, who are like amazing at like you know, like they didn't like learn it in class. Like let's say like embedded systems, you know, like we might learn like how to use an Arduino, but then to take it the next level, you have like just like a microchip and you program it in C, and then you take it to another level and you program it using assembly, you know, like things like that. Those go a long way because you not only just like learn a new skill, but you're able to apply it to like different class. Like he was able to use all that embedded systems knowledge in our robot design project on creating our monkey. So, you know, you might learn it like a couple years like before, but it'll definitely be useful in the future.
I'd like to add actually, for our senior design project, prior to that project, I was working on that personal project, that drone, when I first started that. And the reason we actually got pretty ahead was because I was able to apply my knowledge of accelerometers to our project, because drones need accelerometers to figure out orientation or whatever. So I already knew how to interface with accelerometer. So I was like, oh, just slap it onto our project. And we got pretty ahead because of that. So this is just another example. For me, I think personal development that you should exercise, that is not maybe exactly directly, but is exercise. Or, you know, fitness, working out. I think that helps to develop sort of discipline, and your sort of the proper way to do it is to you plan ahead and you stick to a schedule. And I think that sort of mentality helps, especially in grad school when it's sort of on you to learn a lot of the things that you don't know. So you have to make your own schedule and you have to be disciplined to learn what it is that you're lacking. You can't expect to know everything that you need to know for a specific class, and the same thing for industry. You know, sometimes just catching up to do, and you need to be disciplined enough to be able to teach yourself and grow yourself.
Do you have any programs you would recommend to us, especially since we're in quarantine and we have some more free time for that?
Sure. So who was it? It was Ava, right, who shared us an app. If you guys look on Google Play, 30 days to a split or something like that, that's what we've been doing recently. So it's there's beginner, intermediate, and advanced. It's a month-long program for each, and it builds on exercises to help you develop a split or just become more flexible in general. And prior to that, we did this 30-day like abs and glutes challenge. We did an exercise every day for like a month type of thing to grow them glutes and strengthen them abs. But stuff like that, I think it's fun, especially if you're in quarantine, you're at home, might as well do it. And to move on, final question is, do you have any further advice on how to optimize your time as a undergraduate or as a BME undergraduate? What resources should you take advantage of now that you won't really have once you graduate? How should you be spending your time outside of class or during your class, and any general advice, just as a final question before we go into Q&A.
I think from my perspective, it would be to really focus on what you want to achieve after graduation. You know, the earlier you could start to work on that, the better. You know, if you're trying to go to grad school, then you should really want to look into the different programs they offer that, you know, you'd want to be a part of, researching faculty and working on things like your personal statements, you know, studying for the GRE exams. But if you want to work in the industry, then, you know, you should do research on what kind of companies you'd want to apply to. And you know, you really want to get a head start on all these things, because once, you know, graduation time comes and you don't have much, you know, on your radar yet, then, you know, you might be kicking yourself later on for, hey, you know, why did it take me so long? So I think like really trying to focus on what you want after your graduation is one of the most important things that you could do to optimize yourself as a BME engineer.
For me, I'd say the best thing you can take advantage of is any licenses that comes with the fact that you're a student. It could be MATLAB. I'm gonna lose MATLAB. I'm gonna miss MATLAB, honestly, once I graduate, because it's super helpful for simulations. In fact, it's great that Eugene's on this drone project that I'm trying to resurrect, because he'll have access to MATLAB, which we can do simulations on, which would be nice. And I won't have it. None of the others in the team will have it. Um, LabVIEW, I use my student license a lot. Access to papers is nice, actually. You're gonna lose that, and if part of what you do at work is reading a lot of papers sometimes, then having access to papers is always nice as a student. But when you lose that, you have to pay for access to research papers and stuff. So keep that in mind. That I think is something you should take advantage of, because you have access to all these journals. Yeah, I'd say any sort of licenses associated with your student status, you should take advantage of. Anything else? No? Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I want to thank the guests, Eugene, Anu, Preksha, and Vaibhav, for coming out and spending some time with us. I want to thank BMES for helping me set this up. Thanks to, we got the pictures. And thank you for the audience, you guys, for coming out and listening to us on a Monday night. You might have finals to do, but you came out, hang out with us anyways. If you guys have any questions, now would be a good time to ask them. You can put them in the chat. You can just unmute yourself. But before that, I just want to thank everyone for coming and participating. And good luck with everything. And enjoy the success of... Oh, wait, no, everyone's here, right? Oh, no, only team 1 is here.
Yeah, I feel like Sashir got the cutest one. I've definitely been represented the most in that.
There's equal representation here besides Sashir.
I see like 5 of me.
That's technically 1 filter.
That's funny.
You're going to look like Megamind or the one under Sashir.
Oh, God.
It's big brain hours.
Jimmy Neutron.
And you look like Gru in the top right from Despicable Me.
Oh, my God, right. That's true.
Whirls. Honestly, the left one of Eugene, the one in the middle, I thought that was me initially because of the hair.
Yeah, the hair, the baby face, the little mustache.
Yeah, a little stash too.
That's like old Tim traits. I like the top left one the most. You know, I wish I could grow a beard like that. Maybe one day.
Any questions from the chat? Or anyone want to just say hi? Bruce?
Hi, Bruce.
Yeah, where's Bruce?
Well, for you.
How's it going, Bruce?
It's going all right. How are you guys?
Great.
How are you surviving in the time of the coronavirus?
Right.
Where are you now, Bruce? You're not in New York, right?
I am in Southwest Virginia,
Oh, cool.
Blacksburg. It's beautiful here, and a lot less people.
Cool. Yeah,
so
I bet.
it's a little safer too, except for the ticks.
Yeah.
It's good to see you all.
Bruce, how are
Good
you
to see you
enjoying your
too,
job, man?
No, it's fun. It's fun. It's fast paced. Well, it was up until maybe a month ago. It's harder to sell parts when people aren't buying cars. For those of you who don't know, I'm Bruce. I am a biomedical engineering alum, just like these guys, same year, but I wound up taking a process engineering job at a manufacturing plant for catalytic converters. So I'm working with a whole bunch of chemical engineers who know so much more about material science than I do. So, but the cool thing is I'm working as a process engineer.